Hello and welcome to CNBC Africa's broadcast of the final panel session, closing discussions at Afreximbank's Annual Meetings for 2019 held in Moscow, Russia. I am Christy Cole. In this one-hour panel conversation moderated by CNBC Africa's editor-at-large, Browen Nelson, Russian and African investors explore realities and possibilities of doing business together under discussion themed Russia-Africa Investment Cooperation, Experience and Perspectives.
The panel discussion topic that we are tasked with is Russia-Africa, looking at opportunities, and we're certainly focusing on experience and perspectives. We're going to start with our esteemed panel. And ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that I like to do when I moderate is move beyond the conversation. We have a very clear picture of what we're trying to achieve here, and it is about generating interaction amongst Russian and African businessmen and women, and making business deals come together. I know that Mr. Dossou, who I'm going to pull in now, is looking for investors. We've been asked to highlight the opportunities, and I've just had the pleasure of sitting with Mr. Dossou, where he has highlighted the fact that he has already scoped out a project. He's done all the hard work in Benin, and he's waiting for partners. So, Mr. Dossou, tell us about Benin and the opportunity that awaits investors.
This is the project in Benin. Benin is a West African country with more than 2,000 kilometer borders with the neighbors. And this country, as you see, is the natural port of interland countries. Niger, who have oil and minerals, Burkina Faso, Mali, and even the north of Nigeria, as you know, is a big country with powerful tycoons. You understand? Then this small country have the geographical advantage to be natural ports, deep water port, for those interland countries. On top of that, Benin has almost 500 kilometer rail from the port to the north of the country, with possible extension from Parakou to Niger, Dossou and Niamey. And this rail belongs to the two countries, Benin and Niger. And the two countries launched a tender, and my group won the tender. Today, what I am looking for as partner in Russia is to come, to join the group, and to be able to manage or construct a rail. That is one project.
So, Mr. Dossou, I'm going to put your credentials on the table here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of Africa's best well-known entrepreneurs. He has operated not only in the oil and gas industry, but also in the telecommunications industry. He's a shareholder in MTN. You may know the company, which is one of the biggest telecommunications companies in Africa. So, sir, all I'm doing is putting your credentials on the table so that they know who they are looking to as a partner.
Thank you very much. But on top of the rail, we talk about the best coming. The port, the existing port in Cotonou, is invaded by the city. No more place for extension. Although big business are coming from the North Interland country with their mining potential, Cotonou cannot accept additional increase. Then the rail will do the job, and here in Parakou, the terminal of the existing rail, I have built a dry port, already built by my group. 50 hectares land we have. Then I need partner there A dry port is a free zone. It's not necessary to do about rail, but you can do a lot of things.
So,
on
Mr.
the free
Dossou,
zone.
I want to come in and ask you a question because
Yeah.
there are a lot of people in this room who think about investing in Africa, and we will get to Mr. Marchenko in just a moment, but they look at Africa and say, we've got 55 countries on the African continent, and we're not sure about the rules and the regulations. So when Mr. Dossou is saying to us, come into Benin and partner with him, how, sir, can we be absolutely sure that the government of Benin is not going to change the rules of the game, and those that partner with you may land up without the land if they decide to come into your free zone?
Nobody will put a lot of money on this kind of thing. He doesn't have good contract. I have first-class contract, and even if my partner do something wrong, I don't do anything. I just give my file to justice. It came once, and I won, because the law is there in Africa, in Benin. If you have good contract, if there is anything, including the government, justice will do his role, and I have track record on this case I can show you. And
So, Mr. Dossou, I'm
yeah.
going to come back now.
Yeah.
I also have to go to my other panelists, because remember what I said to you before we started?
Yeah.
We're going to create a roadshow that is going to take potential Russian investors to Benin to look at the opportunity. By the end of this conversation, we're going to create that opportunity for Russia-Africa interaction. So at this stage, can I go to Mr. Marchenko and I come back to you in a moment?
Let me
And of
see.
course, one of the leading diamond producers globally. In fact, I think you produce a third of all the raw diamond production in the world. And you have been operating in Angola for some 30 years. Give us a little bit of your experience. And when we were discussing this conversation a little earlier, you said you spend 50% of your time, is that correct? 50 on the African continent. So talk to us about your experience. And then, of course, I want to look to the opportunities later in the conversation.
Добрый день, уважаемые делегаты.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Having a 30-year-long experience in Africa, I could tell you about very many things. Most of the experience has been positive, but we've been through different things. We started the construction project in Kotoka in Angola at the time of hostilities. Now it's fun to remember about those times. We were moving a lot of big pieces of equipment by air. We could not take those pieces of equipment there by trucks because of the hostilities. The roads were blocked. We're still there. We're looking for new opportunities in Africa, and this experience is good. It's positive. Something that I want to point to, when we were starting our business, we saw no infrastructure, no roads, no power supply, and this thing and the other. Today, we are witnessing a new picture. Africa has infrastructure now, and it is growing. We can say that there are still a few dark corners, but most of Africa has fairly good infrastructure. Of course, there's still not enough electricity in some parts of Africa, but we see that those challenges are being addressed. They build hydropower plants all over the place. Now they're using solar a lot. This is something that we talked about earlier. You asked me if I can call Africa the last frontier. I cannot, not any longer. We see that the continent is developing quite rapidly. Having said that, I must say that there are still challenges. One of them I can name. This is something that has emerged recently. Some countries change their mining codes frequently. They change tax rules, and this goes on and on and on. And I want to tell my friends, my partners, that this is something to be avoided. Otherwise, it is very difficult to attract investors. We have very long investment cycles. It takes about 10 years to build a plant, to build a mine. In Angola, we built a power plant to provide electricity for Katoka. Clearly, it took a long time to do a feasibility study, to do thorough analysis. We spent a lot of money. There are very many factors that have to be put into this equation. And when laws change all the time, when tax rates change, this is very frustrating, and it's hard to do business. This is the main message that I want to send across. This is to be avoided if you want to attract investors in your countries, if you want mining industry to work well.
And I'm going to bring Mr. Okoloko into the conversation here. And if we look at Notori Chemicals operating in the fertilizer space, agro-related industries, for many of us operating in Africa, you'll know that this is certainly one of the engines of growth of a future Africa, because we have 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land in Africa. Mr. Okoloko, opportunities that abound, and perhaps again, if you can bring in Nigeria, we know there that we're dealing with a very, very large population, and maybe the consumer opportunity as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. We know that 40%, minimum of 40% of the GDP in Nigeria is agro-related. We know that 60% of the labor force is in the agricultural sector. So that's very important. We know we have close to 200 million people in Nigeria. We also know that from statistics, by the year 2050, Nigeria's population could be as much as 450 million people. So these are very staggering statistics, but it also creates opportunities. It's a market, a major market, and actually the largest market in Africa. So you need to have to understand that people have to feed themselves. We have to be able to feed ourselves in Nigeria and in sub-Saharan Africa. Today we agree and we know that that the global fertilizer utilization has recommended should be about 200 kilograms per hectare. In sub-Saharan Africa, we're still using less than 10 kilograms per hectare. So there's a major latent demand for fertilizers as long as you can show farmers and teach them agricultural best practices. Now, by farmers learning agricultural best practices, you can then significantly increase the yields of farmers locally in not only Nigeria, but in sub-Saharan Africa. And of course, when the yields increase, Nigeria could literally Africa could literally feed the world. You know, like
it will genuinely be the breadbasket
exactly.
of the world.
Of course. Like you said, over 40% or 60% of our arable land is not even being cultivated today. So there are huge opportunities in the agricultural space. But something else that exists in sub-Saharan Africa, or let me even narrow it down to Nigeria, is the abundance of mineral resources and natural resources. We have significant amount of gas, which is the feedstock for making fertilizers. We also know that from a logistics standpoint, Nigeria is situated globally in the world to access markets, especially in South America, and of course the United States. So we need to start to begin to look at partnerships. How can we attract resources from Russia, invest locally in the Nigerian markets, including, of course, the rest of the Gulf of Guinea, and use these raw materials that we have to create downstream products that have significant high, or should I say, major commercial values.
So I want to come back to the opportunities, but I want to bring in Mr. Kapaya here and talk about the energy issue that was put on the table by Mr. Marchenko, and that is really about the long-term investments, so the rules of the game changing midway. You're looking at putting down infrastructure, extensive capex investment. I'm putting the energy question to you because we know that Africa still has 623 million people with no access to energy at all. And of course, solar energy is very much a part of the Apaya Group's play.
Okay. Thank you. Actually, what Mr. Vladimir said is true. So he told many things that I believe that is true in Angola and other countries in Africa. So we have very, very difficult issues to resolve in Angola. And this issue about energy is real. We have problems. We have problems even with the roads to implement our project in Angola. So actually, I see all this problem as an opportunity as well. So that's why we, as our group, Angola's Opaya Group, we are investing a lot in energy in Angola. We are doing main projects because we saw that it is opportunity, and we are discussing some project even with some Russian company to make some partnership to implement projects in energy sector, because without energy we cannot have agriculture, we cannot have industry. So it is true, but it's also opportunity. So this is a big challenge for our companies in Africa, I believe, or country in Africa. So if you want to transform Africa, if you want to have more opportunity and produce food and other kind of product, we have to actually invest in energy. Yeah.
So, Mr. Nchama, if I can bring you in here, and obviously as president of the Development Bank of Central African States, and I just want to give a little bit of a geographic picture here. Benin, we've obviously got Alrosa invested heavily in Angola, maybe looking at other opportunities, we're not so sure. Mr. Okoloko has taken us into the Nigeria story. Mr. Kapaya has brought us back to Angola. And now Mr. Nchama is bringing us to the Central African states. And we'd like to get a sense of the opportunities, Mr. Nchama, that you deem are there for Russian businessmen and women to take opportunity of when it comes to the territory that you are representing, sir.
Thank you very much. I believe that this is a very pertinent question, and it's so pertinent that yesterday and this morning they were showing some statistics that concerned investment of our bank in various parts of Africa, in various sectors in Africa. The Central African region was missing in those statistics, even though the Central African region has quite big investment potential. We do represent this region, and we could talk about its potential, having studied this quite intensely. Our region is the least developed region in Africa, and there is the reverse side of the coin, and that is, given that it's least developed, it could be very interesting for investment. We've just talked about the mining industry, and in our region, the natural resources that are available are not really tapped. They are abundant, but they are not tapped. 188 million people population of this region of Africa. It's a substantial market that we can say has 123 million GDP, but also much of the tropical forest of the world is in this region. So talking about the Central African region, we call it a region where there is a great deal of possibilities. We have several mines already operating, 160 million hectares of arable land. Despite all these possibilities, we are not developing fast. Actually, the land in the soil in our region is so fertile that we don't need much fertilizer. But the problem is that the food processing industry is not well developed in our region. And despite the fact that we have a lot of sandy soil and rocky soil, nevertheless, we can produce a lot of food. Oil is also available. We have 8 billion barrels of proven reserves of oil, 600 million BCM gas that can be produced quite easily. More than 150 gigawatt of electrical energy can be generated using just the hydro resources. So we have been saying that Russian businessmen should really rush to our Central Asian region because they will find no place that is better in terms of opportunity, but we need financing.
If they come and invest, will those policies be certain enough to welcome long-term investment?
I think there are examples. We've been talking about political stability and tax stability. That is indeed very important. I believe that everywhere in the world the tax laws are changing, but we have good examples of long-term investment that have been quite successful. For example, in Equatorial Guinea, where both gas and oil is produced, the tax laws are changing, but during the development of projects, we can reach agreements on tax stability. And 6 and even 11 countries are ready to harmonize their tax legislation in order to not to hinder investment.
Let's come back to Mr. Dossou, if we can talk to your opportunity. And we basically look at Benin again. I want to understand what makes a successful investment from your perspective as a businessman operating for 25 years on the African continent. What basically makes your ability to find opportunities and turn them into successful businesses? Because again, if you're selling yourself as a partner to many of the people in this room, they want to know why should they partner with you?
As African businessmen, we should start on something we can show to our new international partner that there is a merit. And sometimes we hire external service provider to check for us and to put his stamp, because, you know, sometimes you have somebody, a big player, a big firm, who stamp that this study is good. Even you are the one who tell him what to write. It happens sometimes. But you have to put in confidence your partner, and then you start.
Looking at Africa and comparing Africa with other emerging markets, are there more opportunities in other emerging markets? Are other emerging markets doing things better than we're doing things in Africa at the moment?
Ну, наверное, нет.
Well, probably the answer is no. Probably the answer is no.
Да, в Африке.
Well, in Africa, up until now, there are many opportunities. But I will say this and repeat. The world is becoming increasingly global. Africa is emerging, it's developing. There are very serious African businessmen. There is increased competition in the African market, and therefore companies must have certain know-hows and competences in order to work in the African continent. Certainly an important question, and one of the matters of principle is choosing an African partner.
Позитивные истории.
Because we know both stories of success and positive stories, but we know quite a few negative stories as well that have ended badly because of the choice of a bad partner. And so this is of key importance, where you work and with whom you work. But I will repeat myself. We see really physically that there is growing competition among African businessmen, the gentlemen who are here, for example. But the opportunities are there. They, of course, are available not only in Africa, but also in other places. But certainly, we have been investing in Africa for 30 years. We remain there. We are looking for new opportunities, for new projects, for new countries.
You have been watching CNBC Africa's special broadcast of the Afreximbank's final panel discussion at the bank's 2019 annual meetings themed Russia-Africa Investment Cooperation, Experience and Perspectives. After the break, the panelists explore strategic partnerships, improving access to information, healthy competition as vital tools for improved Russian-Africa trade. Welcome back. You have been watching CNBC Africa's special broadcast of the final panel session, closing discussions at the Afreximbank's annual meetings for 2019 from Moscow, Russia, with a focus on Russia-Africa Investment Cooperation, Experience and Perspectives. On the second half of discussions, the panelists discuss Africa's ready market, evolving infrastructure and business landscape as strategic avenues for improved business relations between the African continent and Russia. African investors also seized the opportunity to launch their pitches.
Because I think he wants to pick up on the fact it's about choosing the right partner, which you've again put on the table.
You know, choosing a right partner today is easy because internationally, if you want to get
Mr.
information...
Dossou, I'm going to ask you just to speak into your mic, sir. Thank you.
If you want to get information on a company, you have many ways to get it. It was not the case in the past. In Africa, a lot of things have changed positively to good governance. Today, a politician cannot come and say, my father is the head of state, give me the permit. All things have changed. First thing. Second thing, I will tell you, there is no competition between my colleagues here because all these big resources was exploited by external investors. They don't talk about competition. What it is about today is to involve local partners.
Can I ask Mr. Okoloko and Mr. Kapaya how they feel? Do you feel that you do compete against Mr. Dossou, or are we now, are we moving closer to this continent-wide free trade area where we actually saying we are working together, we're going to create a $3.3 trillion economy that the likes of Mr. Marchenko are going to find very attractive because we're going to have consistent rules and regulations?
My good friend here made a point. You have to be able to identify the right partners, okay, to deal with in Africa. There are lots of very good partners. There are potential people who have even started working on opportunities that are there. Okay, but again, the bottom line is this. the market is so untapped that every new opportunity there that gets exploited just continues to add value to the overall economy of Africa and to businessmen who are ready to participate in the region.
Mr. Kapaya, let's get you to weigh in on this very topic, on
okay.
whether you are competing or you aren't competing with your colleagues.
Yes, we have competition in Angola, in Africa. So, but actually, for instance, in our country, in 2 years, many things change. Many things change positively because we change. We have a new leader in Angola, and this new leader is fighting corruption, is changing a lot about fighting monopolies, because it was also the big problem in our country. And many things is changing. I think that in other countries in Africa as well. So, but we have something that's very important, is that we have a market. We have 1.2 billions, billions of our population in Africa. So I think it is very important opportunity that we have. So even about energy again, so we have 600 of the population.
623 million people don't have access to energy.
Yes, it is opportunity. So we have companies here in Russia that they can make a deal. They can sell these solutions for Africa. It's a lot of $1 billion. And now I think we are spending $80 billion a year for infrastructures, but it's not enough. We need more for this. And I believe that all these issues are opportunities for Africa, for Angola, and we have to make a partnership with the Russian companies to change this reality.
I now want to come back to the Chief Minister and get his comments, Professor David Francis, on the opportunity in Sierra Leone.
This is about the new Russia-Africa partnership we are talking about. We are just back from signing a 130 million memorandum of understanding for the expansion of the bauxite mining in Sierra Leone by the Sierra Mineral Holdings Limited as a representation and manifestation of the emerging partnership between Russia and Africa. I think we need a round of applause.
I think we have to.
Sierra Leone has exciting opportunities in the mining sector. Sierra Leone is known to have about 24 known strategic mineral resources. But of course, I'm sure you know about blood diamonds, but that's the past. 24 strategic mineral resources known. And currently, as I speak, we are just concluding the mineralization survey, the airborne geological survey of the country to ascertain the scope, the range, the quantity, and the depth of the reserve of the mineral assets in the country. So for once, Sierra Leone will have firm control over the understanding and the data set of the mineralization in the country. So we don't have to go to IMF to ask for money. We use it as sovereign guarantees. This is the new Sierra Leone, the new Africa that we are talking about. We have opportunities in the agricultural sector, in the health sector, in the tourism sector. So I want you to join us to see Sierra Leone in terms of opportunities, new opportunities where you can do good, impact on the lives of the people, but also do well. We make profit. I thank you.
Chief Minister, thank you very much. And just to reiterate what the Chief Minister has said in terms of that journey, traveling by air and then by ocean, by water, and then obviously by road, I have made that journey, and I can highly guarantee that Freetown is worth the visit. So, absolutely. So, we have got 30 minutes left in terms of our discussion. I want to quickly open it up to the audience, and I would like to hear if there's anybody in the audience that would like to put forward a pitch on their relative business, their relative country. I don't want you to walk out of this room and think, I missed the opportunity. I see somebody's already taking the opportunity. If we can get the mic here, and I will come to you, sir, in just a minute. There's another hand going up. We want the energy in this room. Remember, you've had 2 days of deliberation. This now is the culmination. So let's see how many deals we can get started in the room. And I'll come back to my panelists once we've heard from the audience. Thank you very much, sir. I am going to be very strict, though, on audience interaction. I'm going to ask you, please, to make sure that you are courteous to the other people that want to speak in the room. I don't want any grandstanding. We're going to move that mic very quickly among the people who are wanting to make comments. Anton Trashkin is the Vice President for Mica Group. Let's hear a Russian opportunity, sir.
Thank you very much, dear distinguished guest. Dear guest, our company Formica is well known in Russia as the organizer of the biggest industrial trade show, Innoprom, in Yekaterinburg. We've been developing it for 10 years, and it's a genuine international trade show. 2/3 of our exhibitors are international companies. It's pure about manufacturing, and using our experience, we realized the great interest of the Russian companies to go abroad. So we see ourselves as the locomotive of the Russian companies to conquer Africa. And the other discovery we made, that there is no pan-African industrial manufacturing trade show. So we are launching the one in October this year in Cairo. It's called Big Industrial Week Cairo. It's purely about manufacturing. And in parallel, we're organizing African Industrial Forum. We are very lucky that the Russian Minister of Industry and Egyptian Minister of Industry confirmed their participation. The sectors are energy machinery, transport machinery, agricultural technology, nuclear energy. And may I take this opportunity to invite all of you to Big Industrial Week Cairo, October this year. And it will be in Africa, but with the Russian hospitality. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Can we get the mic there, please? We've got some voices. And again, thank you. We can move quite quickly and get a mic to the gentleman in the back there. Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Loretta Aniagolu. I am the CEO for FIT Group of Companies. I'm here with the chairman and the director of building. We're constructing Nigeria's first health tourism district with the Enugu state government in the southeast of Nigeria. We're looking here in Russia to find partners to provide independent energy. We're looking at about 2 megawatts of solar energy and 2 megawatts of gas, and also partnerships in modern, affordable housing construction. Unfortunately, we already sealed the deal for the hospital itself and the hotel that goes with the tourism district. So these are the only areas left. Unfortunately, we came to hear about Russia a little bit too late. So we do have a set of foreign companies doing these two, but these are the areas that are open for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I have a mic there at the back? If you could pass that through there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Patu Tomi. I'm from Nigeria, and I'm chair of the Integrated Produce City. One of the big challenges that we have is how to aggregate small producers. Now, the Integrated Produce City is an agri-industrial town that has at its core a wholesale produce market. And we'll organize farmers around a 7-state area, and every day, produce will come in from those small farmers, and in this wholesale produce city, the buyers for manufacturing, the buyers for distribution, and all are present. And from there, there's an industrial park as part of this city, just near Benin City. And we aggregate for export and for distribution around the country. So we're looking for partners who will buy or lease land or warehousing and manufacture and take the agro-allied value chain all the way into global markets. This is what we're trying to create in Nigeria, and we're very pleased to work with anybody who sees the value in this aggregation.
So we're having some lightning talks here, and that's great. Thank you very much. So I just want to go back to my panel. The opportunities that you're hearing right now, anybody want to comment on the opportunities that are presenting themselves? Mr. Dossou, you want to make a comment at this stage?
No, the general comment I want to say is that Africa is a big market, but the population also, more than mineral resources, is a very big market, and we have to work on that. Thank you.
Mr. Kapaya, Okoloko, Mr. Marchenko.
Ну, я единственное хотел бы добавить,
The only thing I can add is that we are not afraid of taxes. That was not my point. Changing in the tax laws is what we do not like. Various administrative regulations that change all the time is what makes us concerned. We're talking about investment, and we are looking for competition. You should attract people.
We need everyone to look very well at Africa, because the industrialization of Africa will start from the agro-allied industry. And that's where that will create jobs, create significant amount of wealth, so we have to look at that sector very well. Over 60% of chocolate-related products, come from cocoa from 2 countries in Africa. But there's no industry in Africa that actually makes...
Côte d'Ivoire and?
Ghana.
Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana.
Yes.
There we go. A beneficiation, taking the raw materials and
and all that,
adding value.
And all the real value that is created outside the continent. So if we can actually bring industries in there to monetize raw materials, you can actually increase the profitability, because your logistics costs even become cheaper. So we need to look at Africa, and industrialization will come from the agro-allied industry.
So we're building the energy in the room, Mr. Kapaya? This is the council in terms of solving Africa-Russia relations.
Yes, we have to. But I'd like to comment about Angola. We are doing a lot in agriculture as well. So even our company, Opaya Group, we have one company that we are investing a lot in agriculture. Because during these 5 years ago, so when the crisis came, so we saw a big problem to import food. So it was a big opportunity to see that we need to produce locally. 90% of our food we import outside. So now we are changing this reality, because we have everything. We have weather, we have land, we have only to work. So I believe that more than to talk, we have to work. We have to have action. To
Execution.
Yes.
Mr. Nchama, Chief Minister, I'm also going to come to you again, sir, just as we come on a round. So, Mr. Nchama.
Thank you very much. I would like to say a few words. I listened to the speech by the Prime Minister this morning. He said that we need to respect the past, but we need to look to the future. It is the future that will define the success of our cooperation. And I believe that indeed there is a lot of information, a lot of statistic here about Africa is not actual, is not timely. Africa has been developing very fast, and my region, Central Africa, is a place where there is the best tax regime, better than in other countries. And this is very favorable. This should attract investment. So when we talk about stability, I would like to say that raising taxes doesn't win anything, doesn't gain anything. It's low taxes that create real conditions for cooperation.
Investors to come and present in Africa, Sierra Leone as the new El Dorado. 13 months in government, I have learned 2 things. Make sure that you are in control. You should be in the driving seat. Otherwise, it will be the same exploitation. Investors come in, they reap, exploit, and export capital out of Sierra Leone, out of Africa. As a government, you have to make sure that you create a business-friendly environment where every ruble spent or invested will be protected, but at the same time, you are in control. The second point is encourage all companies coming in to invest in value addition. For far too long, Sierra Leone and Africa, we have been the same traditional exporters of raw materials. We don't make the effort to invest in value addition where they can do all the industrialization, manufacturing, exploitation in country. The new government of His Excellency President Dr. Julius Maada Bio has said, this is the new Africa. We have to change that dynamics and the narrative so that we encourage companies to come in, invest, but also do the value addition so that as you, even with the 130 million expansion of the bauxite process that we have just signed, we have said, that is brilliant, but for once, do the value addition in Sierra Leone. That is something I want to leave you. That is the future of Sierra Leone. That is the future of the new Africa that we want to create. I thank you.
Hello.
Right, so now I'm really going to push the boundaries. We've already got mics that are risen. I'm going to give the audience 10 minutes. We're going to move quickly among them.
Hello,
Yes, I
can
know, I can see this. Competition building in the room.
Sorry,
We've got 10 minutes. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, my name is Chimi Waverly. I'm from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm the Business Development Director of a company called MP Infrastructure. We're a full turnkey infrastructure company with operations across Africa. We have a very exciting initiative which we're in the process of trying to finalize we finalized the master plan, we're finalizing the feasibility. And there is a 1,000 hectare city in Lekki, along the lake next to Dangote Refinery in Lagos. It's a mixed-use development with a company called Rendezvous that owns Ren Money. Some of you know Steve Jennings' company. So we have a joint venture with them at the moment to develop 30 hectares out of 1,000 hectares, which they're currently developing at the moment for mixed-use light industrial and residential area. In the light industrial area, we have 30 hectares, which we have dedicated for an SME industrial park, which is primarily export-focused. So what we're looking for is SMEs with the capital S and M, who are export-driven, who want to come into that industrial park. We will build the top structure. We already have roads being built there. There's power. Dangote is running a big gas pipeline with Shell in front of there. So we're going to have an IPP. We're going to have a water treatment plant. All the basic infrastructure you need to provide industry will be in that place. We're partnering with Mahindra Consulting, who have built.
You've got 10 seconds left.
Primarily, we're looking for investors in the park who can come in and take equity positions in this park. We're also looking for Russian companies and other emerging market companies that come in and set up in the SME industrial park and provide manufacture and assembly products for Nigeria.
Thank you very much, sir. Mic down. Mr. Dossou? Mr. Marchenko next.
Nous sommes des États de droit.
We are law-based countries, and when someone is the owner of a site where oil is produced and pays all taxes and duties, then until now it was considered that he does what he wants with his product. It has been changing recently. Some countries have assumed the function of processing their natural wealth, their natural resources. So what needs to be changed? First of all, we need to study the market, and I'm sure that market contains great potential, the potential of the African human resources. There is a market for agriculture, there is a market for oil, and if you are processing your oil, then in your refineries, if you have a domestic producer, domestic consumer of this product, then you are doing something right. So refine for your own consumption, not for export.
Mr. Nchama.
Thank you. Well, I think that we already have said what needed to be said. In October, we've been invited to the forum in Russia, in Sochi, the Russia-Africa Forum, and we are looking forward to it. We indeed expect a lot from this forum. What should be the innovations? What will this forum bring that is really new to us, to cooperation between Africa and Russia, for the success of this cooperation, for the benefit of all of us. Some statistics about the Central African regions have been provided here. There is a lot of potential wealth here. Right now, we are mostly exporting raw materials without processing them. We would like Russian investors to break that tradition, to break that stereotype. And we would like to respond to our friend. We are saying it's not a matter of taxes. It's a question of creating jobs, developing production within the country, and by means of indirect taxation, we will make up for lower direct taxes. The Central African region cannot remain an exporter of commodities. We want, together with Russia, to start processing and manufacturing. Thank you.
So I think that the key here is to find a partner. So we discuss all opportunities for Africa, but I believe we cannot make a mistake. We have to find someone who have experience to go on. It is my opinion, and we have to thank Afreximbank for this opportunity so that we can discuss these issues. And there are some things very important that we like to discuss as well, or to say, is about to facilitate the businessmen, the African private sector, to have or to access, facilitate them for credit access with a good rate. Sometimes we saw a project in Europe, but the rates are very low. And in Africa, we have rates very, very, very high. So I think that, but the key is to find the partner to transform Africa. Thank you.
Mr. Okoloko.
Yeah, I'll just add to that statement by saying Africa is open for business now. The framework is there. A lot of the countries are working on the ease of doing business. That's getting better. There are businessmen who are established in this area who could partner with other international players. The days are gone where businessmen in Africa just look for investors and capital. I mean, we're able to even raise capital ourselves, globally at competitive prices. But at the same time, what you need now more of, is the continuous investments in there, more equity coming into the country, aligning with the right kind of partners, and using the opportunities that are there to industrialize Africa. That's the next opportunity globally.
Industrialize Africa, certainly. Mr. Marchenko.
I agree that as regards adding value and as regards the processing, Africa really has quite unique opportunities and a unique future. I absolutely agree with all who have spoken here, but as a practical person, as a practitioner, I can say that we should not be obsessed with this kind of thing. The world is becoming more global. Some are doing things better than others, and each time you have to be very calculating economically. You have to look at the numbers. Some people in some countries became obsessed with something. They invested a lot of money, but then this was a throwaway investment. I'm an optimist, but at the same time, I'm a practitioner. And that's why I'm saying that the world is changing and the normal paradigm is no longer working. You need to first do very serious analysis. And that is what I wanted to add.
Thank you very much. And first, I would like to say thank you to Afreximbank organizing this kind of gathering. And for our partners, I will say one thing. Solution in Africa is to work with the indigenous. Because indigenous in business, if there is a fiscal problem and things like that, he will fight with you. He will go to the administration and explain to them. And today, we have an institution called African Business Roundtable. The new impulsion we want to give to this organization is to have members from various countries in the world. And as indigenous, we are preparing projects. We do before our own studies. And when an international partner comes, he can look at it and see the effort ourselves we are putting our own money. And to make the story short, good partnership with indigenous and finding also the market in the population. Agriculture, there are everything here. The population want to know, education, everything there. We have to educate our population at all levels, including at the political level. Because good governance today.
Round of applause for my panelists. Thank you so much for joining us. And certainly build towards Sochi and get those deals going. Thank you so much.
Many thanks to you for watching CNBC Africa's special broadcast of the final panel session, closing discussions at Afreximbank's annual meetings for 2019 held in Moscow, Russia, with the theme Russia-Africa Investment Cooperation, Experience and Perspectives. I am Christy Cole. Goodbye.